My name is Beulah Vega. I am a director. I used to be an actor. I've sometimes stage managed, and I am most definitively not a vampire. Anyway, today I will be presenting, along with some of my friends, my word-for-word adaptation for Chapter 16 of Bram Stoker's Dracula. What is word-for-word theater? It's theater created by using a written, non-scripted source. This can include books or poems, anything that's in writing but isn't actually a play. Are there rules for word-for-word theater? Of course. You can't add words that are not already in the source material. You can't cut out sections you don't like. And you have to say every word that's written on the page. Even words like he said, she said, they went. Obviously, this last caveat can lead to some pretty ridiculous situations.
It was just a quarter before 12 o'clock when we got into the churchyard over the low wall. The night was dark with,
occasional gleams of moonlight.
between the dents of heavy clouds that scudded across the sky, we all kept somehow close together.
With Van Helsing
Slightly,
in front.
as he led the way. When we had come close to,
The tomb.
I looked well at Arthur, for I feared.
The proximity to a place laden with so sorrowful a memory.
Would upset him.
But he bore himself well.
I took it that the very mystery of the proceeding was in some way a counteractant to his grief.
The professor unlocked the door.
And seeing a natural hesitation amongst us for various reasons,
Solved the difficulty by entering first himself.
the rest of us followed, and he closed the door. He then lit
a dark lantern and pointed to
A coffin.
Arthur stepped forward.
Hesitatingly.
Van Helsing said to me,
You were with me here yesterday. Was the body of Miss Lucy in that coffin?
It was.
The professor turned to the rest, saying,
You hear, and yet there is no one who does not believe with me.
He took his screwdriver.
And again, took off the lid.
Of the coffin?
Arthur looked on, very pale, but
Silent.
When the lid was removed,
he stepped forward.
he evidently did not know,
That there was a leaden coffin.
or at any rate, had not thought of it. When he saw the
Rent in the lead?
the blood rushed to his face for an instant, but as quickly fell away again, so that he remained of a ghastly whiteness. He was silent.
Van Helsing.
Forced back the leaden flange.
And we all looked and recoiled.
The
The
coffin
coffin
was empty.
For several minutes, no one spoke a word.
Professor, I answer for you. Your word is all I want. I wouldn't ask such a thing ordinarily. I wouldn't so dishonor you as to imply a doubt. But this is a mystery that goes beyond any honor or dishonor. Is this your doing?
I swear to you, by all that I hold sacred, I have not removed or touched her. What happened was this. 2 nights ago, Siva and I came here with good purpose, believe me. I opened that coffin, which was then sealed up, and we found it as now empty. We then waited, and we saw something white come through the trees. The next day, we came here in daytime, and she lay there. Did she not, friend?
Yes.
That night, we were just in time.
One more so small child.
Was missing, and
One more so small child.
we find.
One more so small child.
Okay, thank God, unharmed amongst the graves.
One more so small child.
Yesterday, I came here before sundown, for at sundown, the undead can move. I waited here all night till the sun, but I saw nothing. It was most probable that it was because I had,
Ate over the clamps of those doors garlic
which the undead cannot bear,
and other things.
which they shun.
Last night there was no exodus.
So, tonight, before the sundown, I took away my garlic.
Other things.
And so, we find it.
This coffin empty.
But bear with me. So far, there is much that is
One more so small
strange.
child.
Wait you with me outside, unseen and unheard, and things much stranger are yet to be. So,
Here he shut the dark slide of his lantern. Shh!
now to outside.
Opened the door.
And we filed out.
He coming last, and
Knocking the door behind him.
But it seemed fresh and pure in the night air.
After the terror of the vault.
How sweet it was to see.
The clouds race by, and the passing gleams of the moonlight between the scudding clouds. Crossing and passing.
Like the gladness and sorrow of a man's life
How sweet it was to breathe the fresh air.
that had no taint of death and decay.
How humanizing to see.
The red lighting of the sky beyond the hill.
And to hear far away the muffled roar.
Roar.
The life.
Each in his own way was solemn and overcome,
Arthur was silent,
and was, I could see,
striving to grasp the purpose of the inner meaning of this mystery.
I was myself,
Tolerably.
patient, and half inclined again to throw aside doubt and
to accept Van Helsing's conclusions.
Quincy Morris was phlegmatic.
In the way of a man who accepts all things, and accepts them in the spirit of cool bravery, with hazard of all he has at stake. Not being able to smoke.
He cut himself a good-sized plug of tobacco and began to chew.
As to Van Helsing, he was employed in a definite way.
first he took from his bag a mass of what looked like
Thin, wafer-like biscuit
Which was carefully rolled up.
in a white napkin.
Next, he took out a double handful of some whitish stuff.
Like dough or putty.
He crumbled the wafer up fine
Ah!
and worked it into the mass between his hands.
this. He then took, and rolling it,
Into thin strips.
Began to lay them into the crevices.
Door and its setting.
In the tomb.
I was somewhat puzzled by this, and being close, asked him what it was that he was doing.
Arthur,
And Quincy, drew near also,
drew near also.
as they too were curious.
He answered,
I am closing the tomb so that the undead may not enter.
And that stuff you have there, that's going to do it?
It is.
What is it which you are using?
This time the question was by Arthur.
Van Helsing reverently lifted his hat as he answered.
The host. I brought it from Amsterdam. I have an indulgence.
It was an answer that,
All the most skeptical of us,
and we felt, individually,
usually,
that in the presence
Of such an earnest purpose as the professor's,
a purpose which could thus use thee to him.
Most sacred of things.
it was impossible to distrust. In respectful,
silence.
we took the place
We took the
assigned,
places assigned to us.
Look round the tomb.
but hidden from sight of anyone approaching. I pity the others.
Especially Arthur.
I had myself been apprenticed by my former visits to this watching whore, and yet I, who had up to an hour ago repudiated the proofs, felt my heart sink within me.
Never did tombs look so ghastly white.
Never did cypress or yew or juniper so seem the embodiment of funeral gloom.
Never did tree or grass wave or rustle so ominously.
Never did bough creak so mysterious.
And never did the faraway howling of dogs send such a woeful
Long spell of silence. Silence! And then from the
Big
professor,
aching void.
He pointed.
And far down the avenue of yews,
we saw.
White figure advance.
a dim white figure.
which held something dark
One more so small child.
at its breast.
The figure stopped.
Moment, a ray of moonlight fell upon the masses of driving clouds and showed in startling prominence.
A dark-haired woman.
Dressed in the
Cerements of the grave.
We could not see her face.
For it was bent down over.
One more so small child.
What we saw to be,
A fair-haired child.
there was a pause and a sharp little cry.
Such as a child gives in sleep. Or a dog. As it lies before the fire and dreams.
We were starting forward,
We are
But the
starting
professor's
forward.
warning hand.
seen by us.
Seen by us.
As he stood behind a yew tree.
kept us
Kept
back
us back.
Kept us back.
And then,
as we looked.
The white figure moved forwards again.
it was now near enough for us to see clearly.
Moonlight still held. My own heart grew
My
cold.
own heart grew cold as ice.
And I could hear the gasp
Of Arthur.
Oh,
as we
As we recognize the features of
Lucy Westenra.
Lucy Westenra.
Western.
Oops.
Lucy Westenra.
Lucy Westenra.
Westernra.
Lucy Westenra.
But yet, how changed,
The sweetness.
had turned.
Adamantine.
Heartless.
Cruelty.
And the purity.
To
Voluptuous.
Wantonness.
Van Helsing stepped out.
And obedient to his gesture.
We
all advanced too.
The four of us ranged in a
All of
line.
us ranged in a line.
Before the door of the tomb.
Van Helsing
Raised his lantern.
and drew the slide.
By the concentrated light,
That fell on Lucy's face.
We could see that
See that
The lips were crimson with fresh blood.
and that the stream had trickled over her chin and stained the purity of her lawn death robe.
We shuddered.
With horror.
I could see by the
Tremulous light that even
Van Helsing's iron nerve had failed.
Arthur was.
next to me, and if I had not seized his arm and
Held him up.
He would have fallen.
When Lucy,
I called the thing that was before us,
Lucy,
because
bore her shape.
saw us,
She drew back with an angry snarl.
such as a cat gives when taken unawares.
Then her eyes ranged.
over us.
Over us. Lucy's eyes.
In form and color, but
Lucy's eyes.
Unclean and
Full of hellfire.
Instead of the
pure, gentle orbs.
we knew.
We
We
At that
knew.
moment, the remnant of my love passed into hate.
and loathing.
Had she then to be killed?
I could have done it with savage delight.
As she looked,
Her eyes blazed.
With unholy light.
In the face.
became wreathed with a
Voluptuous.
smile.
Oh God.
How it made me shudder to see it.
With the careless motion, she flung to the ground.
Alice as a devil, the child that up to now she had clutched strenuously to.
Her breast.
Growling over as a dog growls over a bone.
And the child gave a sharp cry.
Lay there moaning.
There was a cold-bloodedness in the act.
Which wrung a groan from Arthur.
oh,
When she advanced to him with outstretched arms and a
Wanton.
smile,
He fell back and hid his face in his hands.
She still advanced, however, and
come,
with a languorous,
come,
voluptuous,
Grace said, come to me, Arthur. Lay these others and come to me. My arms are hungry for you. Come, and we can rest together. Come, my husband, come.
There's something diabolically sweet in her tones.
something of the tinkling of glass when struck.
Which rang through the brains of even us who heard the words addressed to another.
As for Arthur,
He seemed under a spell.
Moving his hands from his face, he
moving his hands from his face, he
opened wide his arms.
opened wide his arms.
Open wide his arms.
His arms.
He was leaping for them when Van Helsing sprang forward and held between them.
Little golden crucifix.
She recoiled from it, and
With a sudden distorted face.
Full of rage.
Dashed past him as if to enter the tomb. When within a foot or two of the door, however,
She stopped.
as if arrested by some irresistible force.
Then she turned.
And her face.
Was shown in a clear burst of moonlight.
And by the lamp.
Which had now no quiver from Van Helsing's nerves.
Never did I see such
baffled malice on a face.
And never, I trust, shall such ever be seen again by mortal eyes.
The beautiful color.
Became livid.
The eyes.
Seemed to throw out sparks of hellfire.
The brows were
wrinkled as though the folds of flesh were the coils of Medusa's snakes.
And the lovely.
Blood-stained.
Mouth grew to an open square.
As in the passion masks of the Greeks and Japanese.
If ever a face meant death.
If looks could kill.
We saw it at that moment, and so for a full half-minute.
Which seemed an eternity.
Remained between the lifted crucifix
and the sacred closing of her means of entry.
Van Helsing broke the silence.
By asking Arthur.
Answer me, oh my friend. Am I to proceed in my work?
Do as you will, friend. Do as you will. There can be no horror like this ever, anymore.
By asking Arthur.
And he groaned in spirit.
Quincy.
And I simultaneously moved towards him.
Toward him. And took his arms.
We could hear the click of
the closing lantern.
As Van Helsing
held it down.
Coming close.
Two.
He began to remove
from the chinks
some of the sacred emblem
which he had placed there.
We all
looked on with
horrified
amazement.
As we saw.
When we stood back.
The woman with a corporeal body as real at that moment.
As our own.
As our own.
Passed through the interstice.
Where scarce a night could have gone.
We all felt
glad sense of
amazement.
Relief.
When we saw
the professor calmly restoring the strings of putty.
He lifted the child and said,
"Come now."
The child gave a sharp cry.
My friends, we can do no more till tomorrow.
There was a cold-bloodedness in the act.
A funeral at noon, so here we shall all come before long after that. The friends of the will all be gone by 2, and when the sexton locks the gate, we shall remain.
Callous as a devil.
Then there may be more to do, but not like this of tonight.
One more so small child.
He is not so much harmed as by tomorrow night he shall be well. We shall leave him where the police will find him. And enter home.
Callous as a devil.
Coming close to Arthur, he said,
"My friend Arthur, you have had a sore trial, but after, when you look back, you will see how it was necessary. You are now in bitter waters, my child. By this time tomorrow, you will, please God, have passed them and have drunk of the sweet waters. So do not mourn over much. Till then, I shall not ask you to forgive me."
Arthur
and Quincy
came home with me.
And we tried to
cheer each other up on the way.
We had left behind the child in safety.
One more so small child.
And were tired.
So we all slept with more or less
reality of
sleep.